Saturday edition of Sundays with Omar, of course, being done on this day once again, because tomorrow we'll not be doing the usual Sunday commentary and participation. Simone says, "Good morning, Omar." Good morning, Simone. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for being here and for your support as always. Teresa Cobware has also joined us, and others will probably come in, I'm sure, over the next little bit. Um, I'm going to be giving away for paid subscribers. In the not too distant future, in this particular live session today, a copy of this, not this actual one, but a copy of this particular Blu-ray or DVD, whichever choice you'd like, for paid subscribers. It's called I Am Not Your Negro. It is a documentary by Raoul Peck, and it's a documentary about James Baldwin as voiced and narrated by Samuel L. Jackson. And if you haven't seen this film, please see it. It's streaming, it's available, but one paid subscriber today will win this. And I've got a bag of names here of some paid subscribers. So it pays to become a paid subscriber. I will continue to give away prizes like this, books and other things coming soon. I'll be giving away a copy of the book Regime Change for those interested in that as paid subscribers. So all of that's coming up, but today is going to be this particular film that I'll give away. So stay tuned for that coming up. It is a fabulous documentary. I totally agree, Simone. It's absolutely fabulous, and it's really impactful. In fact, Simone and everyone else watching, I would have this taught in every school across the country and around the world. Every school needs to really be watching this. I would totally, as someone, if I were in academia, I would totally have this as a required viewing. I really would. And I'd have a class write a thesis paper on the content of this documentary, which came out in 2016, happened to be Academy Award nominated as well. It's a great documentary. Um, and I do hope that somebody, uh, and I hope you can excuse the noise in the background. I have a mind to actually go and stop that noise, but I just don't want to at the moment. But if that noise becomes, that you might hear in the background, if that noise becomes too bothersome, please let me know. um, Deborah Davis has said hello. Cassandra Butler, good morning. Coffee is life. Hope you're well. I want to just talk for a minute or two or more, and I will interact with you. Your comments are welcomed. I intend for this forum today to be one that is serious. Um, and I really do believe that it's important. Look, joy is very important. I think joy is very important for us all, for our mental health. Um, what I do experience, though, when I do these Substacks, quite often there will be people who are just joking all the way through in these chats on topics that are not ones for joking, really. And if people want to carry on having a little, listen, people talk in a chat, I've got nothing against that. But if people want to just joke their way through a chat when the person whose chat you're joking through is talking about a topic of real seriousness and something that you need to pay attention to, my Substack is not the place to do that. You can go and open up your own Substack and have a joke-a-thon, because I don't see people joking around in all everybody else's chats. But when I do a chat or a Substack live, I see some of these people coming in joking. And certainly the topic that I am going to talk about today, and I invite your participation in it, is not going to be one to be joking about in a chat around. So with that stipulation, if you indulge me in that, I want to start by saying, number one, I will be doing another show on intimacy. It's going to be an adult discussion. It's not going to be a titillating discussion. It's going to be, and I'm sure there's someone that might find it to be titillating, but the conversation about intimacy and about sex and about women and about men and subjects in that orbit, I'm going to tackle that again with you as the audience. We can all participate. We don't have to, but it's something that I really want as an open, honest, frank discussion. And we did this before a couple of weeks ago. maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, at the beginning of the month of August. And unfortunately, it didn't get recorded because it went 7 hours. So I'm going to definitely make sure that we don't go 7 hours and that there is a recording of the second conversation. And it requires candor, it requires trust, it requires being vulnerable. I don't have a problem doing that. And I don't have a problem sharing some of my experiences, although I'm not going to go deep and graphic into them. But there may be some graphic content, and I will warn you with the title of that particular forthcoming Substack Live um, about that whole subject. So, just something as a programming note. In the next couple of weeks, I think I'll do this, but I just don't know what the exact date's going to be yet. Anyway, I hope you all can hear me. I hope that any noise in the background is not too distracting. But I want to thank you again for being here. Dr. Coleman, hello. Angie Decadence, hello to you. Good morning. Deborah Davis, thank you. Good morning. Melly, good morning to you as well. I'm going to start now and focus on the topic at hand, which is um, something that really affected me. And I'm sure I'm not the only one um, yesterday when I heard this news. First and foremost, I really do feel for the family of Dr. Jason Arday. And I just want to just read something that he himself wrote exactly 10 days ago today, on the 5th of August of 2026. I'm going to share just a portion of it. Dear colleagues, it is with profound sadness that I write to resign with immediate effect from my position at the University of Cambridge and Jesus College. When I accepted the extraordinary honor of becoming Professor of Sociology at Cambridge, it was, without question, the greatest professional privilege of my life. To become the youngest Black professor in the university's history was something I could scarcely have imagined as a child growing up with a diagnosis of autism, unable to speak until I was 11 years old. The response from so many people across the world was overwhelming. Thousands celebrated not simply my appointment, but what it represented, that talent, perseverance, and hope can triumph over even the greatest adversity. It has been the privilege of my life to teach my students, to learn alongside them, and to witness their curiosity, kindness, and ambition. They have given me far more than I could ever have given them. Sadly, the years since my appointment have also been marked by an unrelenting level of public scrutiny and personal attack. While criticism is an inevitable part of academic life, what I have experienced has gone far beyond scholarly disagreement. The relentless accusations, speculation, and public commentary have taken a profound toll on me and on those I love. I have tried to continue because I believe deeply in the values of higher education, in rigorous scholarship, and in the transformative power of universities. I've tried because of my students, my colleagues, and the countless people who have written to tell me that my journey gave them hope. But there comes a time, but there comes a point when the personal cost becomes too great. So, dear listener, that's the first few pages of a 3-page letter from Dr. Jason Arday As you can see there, dated 5th of August, 2026. I'm going to republish or repost that letter at the end of this Substack Live. And you can read all 3 pages in full. Now, many of you perhaps had not heard of Dr. Jason Arday, but sadly, now I'm sure everyone in this room most likely has. As you know by now, fellow Substackers, the reports came through that Dr. Jason Arday, 41 years old, had been found unresponsive in a property in southwest London. And obviously, we don't quite know yet for sure, at least the last time I looked and researched, we don't quite know for sure what the cause of death was. I think people have their suspicions and their speculations and assumptions, but there's going to be an investigation, and there probably is that's going on now. But the thing that I will say, at least, as Simone writes, so much pain in that letter. Yes, there certainly was. It's all over my timeline, Dr. Coleman writes. But as we go through here, one thing that I certainly want to say is more should have been done to protect, support, and uplift this brother. His family released a statement, and I so feel for this family, as I'm sure you do as well. They released a statement yesterday evening. And one of the things their statement said was that Dr. Arday had faced abuse continuously and relentlessly since he got to Cambridge in 2023, when he was just 37 years old, the youngest black professor in the history of Cambridge, which is hundreds of years old, hundreds and hundreds of years old institution. And from day one, it's not just the last couple of weeks or the last 2 or 3 weeks or the last month. From day one, that brother was abused, was shamed, was ridiculed, all kinds of racist abuse thrown at him. His autism was mocked for 3 straight years. Somebody who, as you heard in that letter, could not speak until he was age 11. Somebody whom could not, by the way, in case you don't know, did not learn how to read and write until he was 18. He couldn't read or write until he was 18. And I think the point of what I want to talk about, and I certainly invite your participation, fellow viewer, is the wholesale failure of the institutions, and in my view also the willful failure of Cambridge University, or University of Cambridge more precisely, to put their arms around this young brother. All the online abuse, the social media abuse, the newspapers in the United Kingdom, and across the political spectrum continuously did stories on Jason Arday over the last month or so. Continuously. And I don't know if, by the way, you can see me at the moment, or if you see a frozen picture. I know that Coffee is Life is saying that it's frozen. And I don't know if that is the same for everybody else. But I hope you can bear with me. Support is hard to find in some circles, whereas Coffee is Life, it is so disheartening. It is very hard at times And Coffee now says that I can see you now. Thank you, Coffee. But I agree with that, Coffee. But this is a rich, powerful institution. And the newspapers in the United Kingdom love to tear people down. And they do love to have a go at people when they are at their lowest point. You have the Guardian newspaper with 7 stories on Jason Arday over the last 10 days or so. I mean, there's one writer, he has written, if you go look at the Guardian newspaper and type in Jason Arday's name, or even just do a random search online and just type in Jason Arday, Arday, The Guardian, you will see a litany of stories. Then they list all the allegations against him in these stories. I mean, really? And the Guardian is supposed to be this so-called progressive, whatever the hell that means now, newspaper. And they detail every allegation against him. Do you know that any allegation of plagiarism against this young man was investigated and he was cleared of any plagiarism or any other wrongdoing? It's cleared of it. At the previous university he had been at, Liverpool John Moore's University, he had absolutely been accused of plagiarism. They investigated it. He was cleared of any wrongdoing. There are allegations that he made claims about running 600 miles in 6 days. So what? My whole thing is, so what if he made an allegation like that? What's that got to do with the price of tea in China? That's my one thing. So what? He was cleared of plagiarism allegations. And that's the thing that really counts here for me. He was cleared of plagiarism. But why did Cambridge decide, after he was cleared, to do an investigation on him? Cambridge University, or the University of Cambridge, I'll just say Cambridge from now on, after he had been cleared in this investigation that this previous university, Liverpool John Moore's University, did on him, cleared of any plagiarism, Cambridge, with all the scrutiny, with all the media, with all the social media racists, they decided to open up an investigation on him. Why? And that investigation that Cambridge opened up on Dr. Arday was the turning point, was the tipping point for him. And he resigned exactly 10 days ago today on August 5th. This wasn't just the last few days, as I said. This was 3 years of abuse against someone who was the youngest black professor in the history of Cambridge, somebody who was diagnosed autistic, somebody who was known as a gentle, caring, empathetic, loving, sensitive man, thrust into the media spotlight. And as you point out here, Simone, they don't mention him being cleared in the news report. Of course. Absolutely, Simone. They don't mention that. In fact, Sky News yesterday, Simone, and everyone else watching, did not read out the full statement from the family. So there was the statement from the family, and I mentioned earlier, the first half of that statement by the family on the passing of their loved one, Dr. Arday, mentioned that he had been abused for 3 straight years ever since he got to Cambridge. In yesterday's Sky News bulletins, they did not read out the first part of that statement. They only read out the second part of that statement, where the family says that they were shocked at the death of Dr. Jason Arday, and that he was a kind man, sensitive man, a loving man, gentle man, somebody who, we lost, who was an uncle, a brother, a son, a father, But Sky News did not play until today, this morning. Sky News did not read out the first half of the family statement that said that he had been abused for 3 years continuously. So, my whole thing here, fellow Substackers, and thank you for watching. Please become a subscriber. If you can become a paid subscriber, fantastic. That'd be great. If you cannot, then please become a free subscriber. Is that I really believe that this young man, again, probably incorrect for me to say this because we don't know what the cause of death was. I think he was killed by these institutions. I think the press piled on him. We know what social media is going to do. And I think the world of academia, as particularly Cambridge, did not do enough. And they turned on him. And I think these institutions killed him. I mean, we may find out that he ended up taking his own life, and the investigation has not confirmed that yet and not said that anything like that yet. What I'm simply saying is that on a metaphorical way, if not more than metaphor, a sense of real accountability has to come to places like Cambridge. There have been so many accusations of plagiarism from all kinds of people in this public spotlight, whether they're professors, whether they're actors, whether they're politicians specifically, not really actors, but maybe you could call a politician an actor too. But politicians, we've seen this in the United Kingdom where I'm from, with the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves. She had been accused of plagiarism. There were Conservative members of Parliament who were accused of plagiarism. There were Labour MPs, members of Parliament, accused of plagiarism. Excuse me. They didn't get the kind of scrutiny that this brother got. And we all know why he got piled on. They saw a black man. They saw a man, in my view, who was smart, tremendously skilled, ahead of his time. And, the white society and the white institutions couldn't handle that. And there are people who openly talked about, well, he doesn't belong at this university. It's just ridiculous. He had accomplished so much. And that letter that I read a portion of, which I will post in its entirety after the Substack, really brings into full relief just how much pain that brother was feeling. One of the people who confided in him, a barrister from England, Joe Morm, who is on Substack, I'll have to put his information up if I can at some point, was on Sky News last night saying that he had been talking to Jason every day, to Dr. Arday every day over the last few weeks. And he said on the air that Dr. Arday said, I don't know how much longer I can handle this. I really don't feel that I can deal with this any longer. He was literally crying out for help. And all the people who, after he was dead, came out with statements, I don't know how many of them had any private conversations with Dr. Arday. I don't know how many of the people who put out public statements had any public statements before his death. But I think these systems, which are anti-black to begin with, totally killed him. Now, you can characterize that as premature of me to judge, and I would agree that it is. But we've seen this horror movie before, and it seems very, very clear to me, and I'll read out some of your comments as well coming up in a moment, that this brother was doomed. And I also think what this does is send this message to other black academicians that if you really want to have a place in a revered institution like Cambridge, you had better think again before you decide to come to Cambridge. I think that there's a lot of things about what happened to this brother that I find to be deeply saddening, deeply traumatizing, completely outrageous, and absolutely preventable. How was this brother valued? And that's what I look at when I look at this letter. When I read this letter out, part of this letter out, I think about what did this institution do to defend him, to protect him? Not that he needed defending. He didn't do anything wrong. The thing is, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't commit a crime. And I just think that these institutions played it. I think these institutions played a crime, committed a crime. And I don't know what the family's recourse is going to be. I don't know if the family is going to somehow bring up some kind of legal judgment to try to get a legal judgment against Cambridge. I don't know if that's something that's fashioned, if they can fashion that. But right now, the pain is so deep for this family, you know. But I was profoundly distressed by this news yesterday, and I would imagine you were as well. And for me, I found it to be a very, very sad, very tragic, and completely avoidable situation. This guy was only 41 years old. And the newspapers in the United Kingdom, they love to tear people down. They can build people up, but tear them down. The Guardian newspaper that prides itself on being so-called progressive, I think was one of the worst offenders. The Daily Telegraph, one of the worst offenders. When news of his death broke on their Saturday morning edition, on the front page, his face was not on the cover. They just had a blurb in the middle of the front page. But for weeks before today, they published a picture on their front page of Dr. Arday every single day. The Daily Telegraph, the Telegraph, you can find them online. You can look at their covers from the last few days and the last week or two. And all they did is continuously put his face on the front cover. What for? He didn't do anything. And nor did Cambridge University, obviously. So when the dean comes out with I'm profoundly shocked, we are all deeply saddened by his death. I read that statement yesterday and I shook my head and I said, are you really profoundly saddened by his death? Because if you are profoundly saddened now, what did you do beforehand to try to prevent his death? I think these institutions and the people in them showed you who they were and show you who they are. Deeply hypocritical. This brother had a lot of support from the outside world. People around the world supported him. But again, as I said on social media, many people didn't, predictably. The London mayor, the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, or shall I say Sir Sadiq Khan, he got knighted within the last few months, last year or so. He's been mayor of London now for 10 years, Sadiq Khan. And he put out a statement on X, I think today or late yesterday, where he said this system failed him. He got totally bullied and scrutinized and pilloried in ways that no one else would. Um, and there's other things he said in that statement, the mayor of London, that I thought were very good. You have an MP in the United Kingdom, member of Parliament, Dawn Butler, who is a black woman. That sister is tremendous. Dawn Butler, member of Parliament for Brent, Brent is the constituency that she's the member of Parliament for in London. And she put out a letter today, which I will also post on Substack here afterwards, about a letter to the organization in England that the governmental group that actually regulates the press, or has an what they call oversight for the press, and challenge them to look into what happened here And I think it was really, really important that she put that letter out. I will get that letter and I have it. I will repost it. I should have read it out as well, um, because I don't want people to think that this brother didn't have some support from people who loved him, people who cared about him. But the people who really needed to support him did not. The university, they didn't support him. And the press, who, of course, they don't have to do anything but attack or defend or prop up or dismiss. The press played a key role in, forgive my language, stabbing the knife in his back. Let me read out your comments, and I'm going to just say a few more things. And your participation is greatly appreciated. I'm going to go back here and read some of your comments out. Double jeopardy, writes Dr. Coleman. They should not have been allowed to drag this out again after he was cleared. Dr. Coleman, I totally agree with you. The education auntie that you are, thank you for being here. I totally agree. There was no reason to now redredge this, to now regurgitate anything or dig up anything. The brother had been cleared. Dr. Arday had been cleared. Leave this professor alone. Leave the doctor alone to do his work. They were more interested in tearing this man down and not allowing him to do the work that the Cambridge institution prides itself on. They were more hell bent, in my view, in getting rid of him than they were trusting this brother to continue doing the great work he had been doing. There was no complaints against Dr. Arday. There were no complaints. He was there for 3 years. There weren't any complaints about him. There was a plagiarism allegation at another university that he was at. That university investigated it, and they cleared him of any wrongdoing. And then why does Cambridge, Dr. Coleman, and everyone else watching, have to open up an investigation against him? What? Because of something he allegedly said, that he said he ran 600 miles in 6 days? Like I said earlier, so what? Who cares? That is not a grounds to investigate somebody. And what I think happened, Dr. Coleman, is that, and I'm not defending anything Cambridge did, I think that there were donors, trustees, and this climate that said we should look into something, we should look into this because we want to protect our ass. Quite frankly, I don't know for a fact. I'm sitting here speculating, which is not the wisest thing to do. But I think that part of this whole despicable thing by Cambridge was about covering their asses. But my whole thing is, why do you need to cover your ass when another university has cleared him of wrongdoing, found no credible evidence at all that he plagiarized anything? In fact, there was nothing there. So for me, Dr. Coleman, everyone else watching, Cambridge just did something that made his life, Dr. Arday's life, much more difficult. And so this institution helped pile further pressure on this brother. And they didn't stand with him, and they didn't stand by him. And then you have to hear these reports about Sky News reporting, well, maybe, you know, what did they do the proper oversight on the professor? We have to raise questions to see whether or not Cambridge has got their policies correct. So now they're starting to attack the brother after he's dead and talking about, well, Cambridge needs to have better oversight. Better oversight about what? The brother was cleared of any wrongdoing at the previous university. So I totally agree with you, Dr. Coleman, education auntie. There's no way that this should ever have been regurgitated or recycled, if you will. Totally agree with you. Ivelis Reyes has joined us. Those higher institutions, writes Melly, are so abusive. Yes, they are. I think that Cambridge, whether it's Cambridge or Harvard or Oxford or Yale or Stanford or any of these places around the world, there is a level of abuse in these places. And people have to remember, and Melly, I'm sure you may know this, and maybe others of you in this chat do as well, that you have in this country, US of A, institutions, Ivy League institutions, that enslaved black people, that had enslavement on their campuses, that had experimentation on black people on their campuses. And so, yes, these higher institutions are extremely abusive. And people walk around wearing Oxford on their shirt, wearing Cambridge on their shirt, wearing Harvard on their shirt, wearing Yale on their shirt, wearing Stanford on their shirt, and either are completely oblivious or just don't care that these institutions, especially the ones in the US of A, played a major role in the enslavement trade, played a major role. People who founded these institutions, people whose names are on these institutions, like Leland Stanford, these people owned black people as property. And that Harvard even put out a report about its dealings with enslavement and apologized for that. In 2021, they put out this, I believe it was a big ass long report about all the things they did, and they were apologizing up the wazoo about it. And that thing needs to be explored. That's another layer of this that needs to be explored. The layer of these institutions and their history and what they were founded for and whose backs they were founded on. And when they were founded, what was happening? There's a lot of racism in these institutions, a lot of anti black racism in these institutions. There's a lot of misogyny in these institutions. But in the case of Dr. Arday, this is a brother who is married with 2 children. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children. That brother had a right to live, and he should have been able to live his life and do the work that he loved. And it absolutely breaks my heart. And I'm sure it breaks yours. This young man should still be here. And we don't know what the final word is on the cause of death. I'm assuming at some point we will in the next few days, maybe another week, maybe not, maybe less than that, maybe tomorrow, maybe later today. Who knows? But I agree, Melly. These institutions are very abusive. Dr. Coleman says, yeah, bullying and harassment. This is what this was. And we've seen this online with people where you have a group of people who gang up on somebody online and abuse them relentlessly. We've heard of this on Facebook and on Instagram. But that's as harsh and as painful as that is. That's not the same as having your name splashed across newspapers in the United Kingdom and beyond. Quite frankly, the New York Times had done a story on him before. And it's not the same as having reports on the news in the United Kingdom continuously on you when there's no wrongdoing. I mean, I don't know. What would you do in his situation? What would you do? I mean, whether you're someone who is diagnosed with autism or not, to me is beside the point. But and in your case, what would you do? But that only adds another layer of the contempt that I think these institutions had for this brother. And yes, Cambridge brought him in, but they didn't support him. I don't think they did. And all these people now, members of parliament now, coming out with statements of shock. The education secretary, Lucy Powell, in the United Kingdom. She's the education secretary in the cabinet of Andy Burnham, who is the current prime minister of the United Kingdom. Came out and said how shocked she was. I wonder, did she, knowing of the situation of Dr. Arday, did she get in touch with him privately, publicly? Did she send out any social media post prior to his death talking about the need for restraint, the need to allow this brother to flourish and be who he is? I don't remember seeing anything from all these people before he was pronounced dead. But now they all come out and give their verdict on the brother. I really feel for this family. Some people internalize the feelings and it kills you. Just sad, writes Melly. And Melly, I agree, it's so painful. And I'm going to give out a hotline number at the end of this, or at least an email address. But it's a very painful thing. And by the way, if you do hear the noise in the background, if it's too loud, can you tell me, please? If it's distracting, tell me, because it is quite loud, but I'm going to be able to try to do something about that. People find it so easy to pounce on one another. Consequences be damned, writes Coffee is Life. That's so true. And again, the social media stuff was despicable on him. The racists, the white racists out there, all over the world, the bots, the trolls, people in the UK just piling on him on social media. I think he had a social media account, but just imagine he probably got death threats. I'm sure that they threatened his life. He probably got death threats at his property, and we don't know if it probably is his house. We don't know for a fact yet. This should have been avoided and could have been avoided. Cassandra Butler, the unwarranted level of stress was there. It certainly was. Hello, Joanne Principato. Thank you for joining. Hello, Victoria. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. It's very subjective. It hurts my heart for him, writes Melly. Stacy, good morning to you. Stacy from California. How are you? They have blood. Simone writes this. They have his blood on their hands. Simone, I totally agree with you. I wanted to say that earlier and I forgot. I had that thought in my mind and then my mind went somewhere else and I went back to something else. But I totally agree. I think that they certainly have his blood on their hands. And they have a lot to answer for. And instead of opening up an investigation on him when that was totally unnecessary, you knew that this guy was a fragile man. You knew that this man was somebody who was sensitive. You knew that this man was diagnosed with autism. You knew that this man was making a profound difference in the lives of many of the students that he taught. And you decided to do an investigation on him for what reason? He didn't commit a crime, like I said earlier. He wasn't accused of any kind of lurid crime. He wasn't accused of preying on women. He wasn't accused of any sexual harassment. He wasn't accused of anything. Why open up an investigation on this brother? And I think that that's the institution protecting its own ass, as I said earlier, and not doing the forthright and sensible thing, which would be to actually put their arms around this brother and absolutely have and reiterate their full support for him. That's what they should have done. And they should have done that both privately and publicly. That's what they should have done. Now, I'd have to go look through all their social media, but there is not an indication from my point of view that this brother was publicly supported by by Cambridge, excuse me. They do. I totally agree, Simone. They do have his blood on their hands. I think that's very, very true. And this is the kind of conversation that needs to be had. This brother had everything to give. He loved what he did. He seemed to really relish the challenge. And for what they did to him, this guy, to me, Simone, the brother was stoned. He was stoned. I don't mean stoned as in, oh, I'm high. I mean stoned. He was tied to a post and all of these people just kept throwing rocks at him. And excuse my being graphic, But the more blood that they drew from the rocks that they threw at him, the more they continued to throw rocks at him, and the more pleasure they got from that. I really feel for him, and I feel for this family so deep. And I tried to get someone on actually to talk about this with me, and I can understand people did not want to do that. I'm talking about people from my native country, the UK, and I understand people didn't want to do it. It's probably a little bit too raw on the wounds, salt on the wounds to do it. I'm still hoping that I can get someone that I can have a conversation with for the sake of Substack and have some really um, open conversation about who this brother was and the great work he did, because I really think that that should be remembered, which is why I started the early part of this the early part of this Substack Live, reading out a part of this letter. You know, um, it needs to be recognized, Melly writes, what they did to him. Absolutely. That part needs to be looked at, and that end, Melly, I think that, as I said earlier, I really believe that the institution should face some kind of sanction. I don't know how you can do that. The media is going to be very hard to do anything against the media in the United Kingdom, because there are some strict laws. You have to, the thing is that they in these cases, when you do, there wasn't a defamation of his character per se, but there was an attack on it. There was this relentless news story after news story after news story after news story that really didn't need to be done on him, throwing out a list of allegations when he was, I mean, plagiarism was the only thing that you should be doing a news story on. But then he's cleared of that, and then you're doing all these news stories about all this other stuff that he may have said. I just think you're now just going for the kill. And like Dr. Coleman wrote earlier, double jeopardy. Once he was cleared of the first hurdle, why the hell are you still going after him? I'm going to see if I can do something about this noise in here. So I'm going to read out your comments, but I want to see if I can get this noise under control here. I'm actually going to put up a white sheet this time, um, as opposed to just the bookshelf look. So please excuse me for a moment. Maybe this sheet of paper will fall, but maybe not. But I just want to do this because this thing is becoming a bit more unbearable for me. So indulge me in a few seconds. I'll be right back. Well, I'm back. I don't know if that's going to help, um, but thank you for your patience. I'm going to read out some more of your comments. Victoria writes, just shameful. They absolutely are not profoundly sad. Cambridge gave not two fucks. I I agree, Victoria. I think this was in some ways, Victoria, again, I know I'm speculating and I think we all are. We have our view. We are entitled to we're entitled to our views. I think, Victoria, what this was a complete neglect at best, an institutional neglect of this brother. Somebody who had, excuse me, 3 years of abuse. Again, the family in their statement, in their full statement, said that this brother was abused, that their beloved Dr. Jason Arday was abused from day one. He faced abuse from all over the place from day one. Certainly online, certainly on social media, from day one. Threats, harassment, everything. For 3 straight years. This university did not do enough for me, in my opinion. I don't know if this family is going to pursue some kind of thing against the university or not. If there is some kind of avenue to do that, they should do it. Again, I know it's probably a bit early in the day because, again, the family is probably not thinking of anything to do with legal action potentially. They are thinking of Dr. Arday, their loved one, who is no longer here. So, obviously the family is calling for privacy, and that's completely understood. I think they're calling for privacy at this time. But Victoria, I agree, they didn't care. And to tell that he was cleared, writes Melly. Cambridge is really disgusting for this action. I think Cambridge, Melly agreed. Cambridge has a lot to answer for here. And this is something, Melly, that I think sends a chilling effect through a lot of academia, not just in the United Kingdom, but I think globally, especially at these higher institutions. And I think there really needs to be an examination of their policies, their outlook, their history, and their criteria. We've seen situations where there have been professors, white professors, who have done so many heinous things and have allowed to been staying on their board, staying on a board, staying in a consortium. Um, some people have ended up being let go, but we've seen so many situations where white professors with racist views are allowed to stay on at universities or get quietly sidelined to somewhere else. It's just crazy. There was a story in the Boston Globe earlier this year about a professor there who had ties to Jeffrey Epstein, and that professor was allowed to continue there for at least another year or two. And this professor also had said openly racist things. Professor wasn't let go of. He didn't get racially abused. He didn't get abused. Not racially abused. He didn't get abused. He didn't face any abuse from anybody. And this is a professor at one of the schools in Massachusetts, or in the Northeast at least, in the United States. No scrutiny. We've seen all kinds of things. We've seen all kinds of things. We've seen situations where professors, white ones, commit or allegedly committing all kinds of things, alleged sexual harassment, and the university stands by them. They don't open up investigations into them. What really? I don't. It does not happen very often. If they do open up investigations against them, but it's not very often. And if they're cleared of any wrongdoing, those white professors if they're cleared of any wrongdoing, those universities don't open up investigations on them again, once they've already been cleared, whether it's at that university or another one. So we have a profound, clear issue here of anti Black racism. I'm confused, writes Coffee is Life. And Gail and Ralph, thank you for joining. If Cambridge was so concerned, why did they hire him? Shouldn't that have been dealt with during the background check and interview process? Coffee, I would agree with you. I think it was. I thought he was vetted. I think the news reports that I read showed that he had been vetted. He didn't just come in at all, which is why Coffee is Life. I think that the university has a lot to ask for a lot more different reasons. Because if you accepted this brother, you looked at his credentials, you verified him, you vetted him, like they should do anyone. How on earth do you not put an arm around the brother when, if you believe in academic freedom and access to academia and academic institutions, how could they not put their arms around the brother and support him? How come they couldn't have made a statement? How come they couldn't have wrote an advisory to the media? How come they couldn't? How far were they willing to go? If they're such an esteemed institution, Coffee is Life, how far were they willing to go to show that they were? By protecting and putting their arms around and supporting this brother, privately and publicly. That's a question that I would ask on a day like today of Columbia. Excuse me, I keep saying Columbia. Cambridge. If Cambridge is such a revered institution, why didn't it give this brother the protection and the support and the care that they would have given to a white professor in that situation? That's the question I have. This is clearly an issue of anti black racism. It's clearly there. There was an MP, member of parliament, yesterday on Sky News, um, Bell Ribeiro Addy, or Bell Addy Ribeiro, who said to the person on Sky News interviewing her, "Why are you even asking me these questions? At this point, what you're saying to me is really useless because the question should not be, should there be a better way to handle or vet people in academia? The question should be, why the hell don't we just stop racism? Why don't people just stop being racist? That should be your question. Not should we be looking at some way that Columbia or Cambridge, and not Columbia, Cambridge vets people coming in. So coffee is life. I do empathize with your comment. Why hire the brother in the first place? If you're not going to walk with him through this process, you knew this brother was a tremendous person. Look at the adversity he went through. He couldn't speak a single word until he was 11 years old. And he couldn't read or write until he was 18. And just 19 years later, and he's diagnosed as an autistic person. Asperger's syndrome, I think he had, or he was diagnosed with. And just 19 years after he could read and write for the first time, 19 years after that, at age 37, he became the youngest professor, black professor, in the history of Cambridge. Before that and after that, he had already taught at other schools. He taught in Glasgow, in Scotland, at a university there, and he's taught at another university. This brother was credentialed. This brother was ahead of his time. This brother was a tremendous professor. He made the difference in the lives of many, many hundreds, thousands of students. He challenged his students, but the institutions challenged him. Jackie Kerr joined us. I don't hear anything, writes Victoria. Now, this is from a few minutes ago. Does everyone hear me now? I know this was a few minutes ago that Victoria wrote that. Does everybody hear me now? I assume you do. You can hit the hearts or something. Hitting the hearts actually would be a good idea so I can see that you do hear me at the moment. I think you must. I hope you do. A certain university that I will not name was built on a land, and thank you for hitting the hearts to confirm that you do hear me, was built on, this is Dr. Coleman speaking now. I'm reading what Dr. Coleman has written. A certain university that I will not name was built on a land where a black college was burned down twice. They really prove how fragile they become when black people enter spaces that are predominantly white. Yes, Dr. Coleman, 100%. And then to add to that comment that you just made, or that you made a few minutes ago, and I'm going to try to catch up to the end of your comments, and then I'm going to give a summation, a couple of things I want to say, and then I'm going to give away I Am Not Your Negro. To add to what you've said, Dr. Coleman, the post mortem happens after the black person has been hounded out of the institution or found dead in southwest London in a property in Battersea. The post-mortems are, oh, well, What about race? What about academia? What about vetting standards? And never, of course, Dr. Coleman, as you and I both know, the conversation is never about, as the MP, Dr. Bell Addy Ribeiro said, the conversation is never about why don't you motherfuckers stop being racist? How about that? How about that? That's never the conversation. The conversation is never about the white discomfort and the white racism and the oppressiveness of white people in these institutions and the racism and the white lash directed at any black person who dares step into the so-called white hallowed circle, the hallowed circle of whiteness, right? That's what a lot of these institutions, in my view, fellow Substacker, represent, this hallowed circle of whiteness. And the idea that higher learning is exclusively white and supposed to be white, which also Dr. Coleman and others watching comes back to this point that I want to make. This idea that someone who is black, who may have a different accent, who may have an accent that sounds more European or sound that's based in a different part of the world, is somehow talking white. That's a whole nother conversation that I could go into. I don't want to do that really on this particular Substack Live, but that's another thing. That notion, the conditioning that many of us as black people have. And that comes out of a lot of ignorance. It comes out of not traveling around the world. And it also comes out of this failure to understand and recognize that we as black people started civilization. I mean, we've been talking all kinds of languages for centuries and with all kinds of accents for centuries. And we've been doing that before anyone else came along. So to mock a black person who speaks with an accent and says that they're talking white is just stupid, bullshit, and ignorant, and shows that you don't travel and show that you don't know the history of the world. Because we've been speaking with this accent, whatever that accent might be, longer than any white person's even been around. So again, this is what happens when people do not open their minds. That's a whole nother story. But back to more specifically, Dr. Com, what you're writing about is, yeah, this hallowed circle of whiteness that a black person dare not breach. You dare not pass this point. There was Columbia, there was a Cambridge professor, white person, white man, who openly said that academia does not belong to black people. Openly. It's at Cambridge, same place. Openly said that black people do not belong. This is what he said, white man. And you can go look this up. I'm I'm pretty much close to exactly the word for word. That black people do not belong in spaces of academia. They need to stick to music and sports. I think he got let go from Cambridge. Or he said this as an ex-Cambridge professor, but it doesn't matter. He said this as someone who had been a professor or who was a professor at the time. And that represents everything because white people at large are deeply threatened and have a deep inferiority complex when they see someone, especially someone black, succeed and thrive in these spaces. When you tell someone that you are a doctor and you're a black person saying this to a white person, typically the response, and I can say this in my view, I can say this in my experience as an attorney, the response is, oh, really? It's a embedded response. Oh, really? You are? What should I be? And when a white person says to another white person that I'm an attorney, nobody says, I'm guaranteeing you, because I've been around people when they've had these conversations. The average white person doesn't go, oh, really? They say, oh, that's great. Which school did you go to? What kind of law are you doing? But when it's us, you and I, as black people, who say, oh, well, then someone asks you, what do you do for, oh, I'm an attorney. Oh, really? You are? That's that deeper thing that goes on in many a white mind. I've been on Substack and I've said that I'm an attorney, and I've had that response from people who have white faces as their avatar in chats, just like the one you're in, on other people's Substacks. And you and I are not the only ones. There's this shock or surprise that a black person could be a doctor or an astrophysicist or an astronaut or somebody who is a medical doctor of some kind or somebody who's an attorney or somebody who is a neurologist, a pathologist. Ooh, oh, really? This is the truth of our lived experience, because deep in many a white mind, there is this idea that you don't belong in academia. Like this white professor once said, that you don't belong in these spaces. I'm going to tie what happened to Dr. Arday, to Pete Hegseth. Black women ready for promotion to the highest echelons of the military, in command, as high in the military as you can get. They worked their ass off. They paid their dues. They're accomplished, qualified, ahead of their time, just revolutionary figures in the military who really could put the military of this country on a stronger footing. And what does Pete Hegseth do? Refuses to promote them to their rightful positions. It's all connected. It's an institution. The military is an institution. It's as much an institution, if not more, quite frankly, than Cambridge. And Cambridge has been around longer, I believe. And the thing that gets me, folks, because this is about institutions, it's the institution that kills. And this brother, to me, was, again, I know, premature to say this, but the brother was killed by Cambridge. The press did their thing, obviously, but the institution, when you open an investigation on a brother when he did nothing wrong, shit, the Catholic Church doesn't do that with these popes, with these priests. They pass these priests around after they've abused kids to another place down the street or in the next town over or the next town over or in a different country. This is always about institutions, always. And choices that get made to exclude black people, to demonize black people, to not support black people, and to absolutely demonize them by proxy, by opening up an investigation where none needed to be opened, and not doing an investigation on the people who are causing and committing the harms. These white male priests, these white priests. It's plain as day. They didn't have to kill the man. That's the way I look at it. Autism makes you so much more aware of what's going on around you, writes Melly. Yes, Melly, yeah. That's the other thing, as I say, this countless, relentless scrutiny that he writes about in this letter. Sadly, the years since my appointment. See, in the letter here, sadly, the years since my appointment have all. So, again, as I said many times, this wasn't just abuse over the last couple of weeks. This is, or the last month or so. This is 3 years of abuse. 3 years. Sadly, the years since my appointment have also been marked by an unrelenting level of public scrutiny and personal attack. While criticism is an inevitable part of academic life, what I have experienced has gone far beyond scholarly disagreement. And as Melly writes, autism makes you so much more aware of what is going on around you. That brother was being absolutely torn apart by these allegations. And with that heightened sense of awareness that Melly writes about, she speaks to, it absolutely is not hard for anyone to see that this would have happened to this brother. It's not hard for anyone. He had these post mortem statements. Oh, I'm shocked that he's gone. I'm absolutely shocked. I mean, I know that the family was shocked, obviously. So I'm not including them in this. But all these other people, deeply saddened, shocked. And the vice president of the University of Cambridge, Dame somebody Prentice, Victoria Prentice, or whoever, whatever her name is. How could you be so saddened for his death? Again, I want to reiterate this. How can you be so saddened about his death? And you knew for 3 years he was getting abuse at Cambridge. You knew for 3 years. 3 years. It's heartbreaking. And I feel I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm not a family member, so I really am probably speaking out of school here. I feel heartbroken for him and for this family. And I feel a bit of a real sense of anger as well. And the frustration and the pain of knowing that a young life like this is just gone. No matter what the results are of the investigation, they forced him out. And they forced him out twice. 10 days ago today, he resigned from Cambridge. And just 9 days after he resigned from Cambridge, he's now no longer with us. Simone writes, absolutely, Omar. And Cambridge just made it worse by not saying publicly that there had already been an investigation and findings that the charges had no merit. Instead, they open up a new investigation. What the hell? Yes, Simone. I mean, it's terrible. To be clear, just in case people are not aware, okay? And I want to tell you this. Cambridge, the investigation into his alleged plagiarism was at another university called Liverpool. In case you weren't aware of this, because you may have come in after I said this, Simone. But the spirit of your comment, I totally agree with. I'm with you 100% in what you said. There's a university called Liverpool John Moores. Last name is Moo, like my name, Moore, with an S on the end of it. Liverpool John Moores is the name of the university that Dr. Arday had been a professor at prior to coming to Cambridge. And there was an allegation of plagiarism there that Liverpool John Moores investigated. And I forgot when they investigated, whether it was this year, whether it was previously. I think it was so I don't know. I can't give you the exact date, but someone I'm sure can research this. And they found that he did not plagiarize, that these charges were unfounded. There was nothing of plagiarism. This was at another university. And this was while Dr. Arday was at Cambridge. The investigation happened. The brother was cleared of any wrongdoing. He didn't do anything. And then Cambridge, with all the scrutiny, decided to open an investigation on him. That's the thing, Simone, that you're talking about there. It's just crazy. So Cambridge had not done two investigations on him. They did one. And that one investigation was after the university that he was at before, Liverpool John Moores University, had done their investigation on the alleged plagiarism, the allegations, and cleared him, found that he didn't plagiarize anything. All these other things where he supposedly came out and said, I ran 600 miles in 6 days, I raised $8 million or £6 million or whatever it was for charity. And these things were, oh, Columbia, Cambridge decided, oh, I'm not, we're going to open an investigation on stuff that's just, in my view, Simone, everybody that's watching, stuff that's bullshit. So what if the brother said that the moon was made of green cheese? Are you going to investigate him? Open up an investigation? In my humble opinion, the moon is made of green cheese. What are you going to do? Open an investigation on the brother? It's just crazy. And these clowns on social media, they're a bunch of ass clowns and racists. We know that. You get some of them here on Substack. So until social media is regulated, and no one's doing that anytime soon, I think a lot of these politicians anywhere in the world get so much money from them in campaigns and things, particularly in the US at least. So much money. And the Supreme Court's protected that ability for them to get all this money. They get so much money from their campaigns from the Facebooks and the Metas of the world, the Googles and the Alphabets of the world, and the all these other people, Elon Musk and all the rest of these folks. They have no incentive to regulate Jack when you've got billionaires giving them unlimited sums of money. They don't have any. Congress doesn't have any interest in regulating these folks. They bring Mark Zuckerberg in every year. He sits there, he smiles at him, answers a few questions, answers some note, doesn't answer others, and then just goes home. Thanks for bringing me to Washington, and I'll pay you some money for your next campaign soon. Take care now. And I don't care what these social media companies do, it's not enough. And they have the capacity to do enough, to do more than enough. The white racist Renee writes said horrible things about this young man. They feel we should get over because he lied. He did wrong. Put it this way, and Renee, you know this as I do. How many people who are white have lied about something or admitted it in the public eye and kept their jobs? How many people have admitted who are white? I'll bring up one example right now, and they've kept their jobs. There was an open admission by Clarissa Thompson, who was, I don't know if she still is at Fox Sports News, Fox Sports, that she didn't work hard enough to get a job, or that please go look this up. I can go look it up too. And she and what's her name? Um, Erin Andrews, who used to be at ESPN, two white women, admitted that they didn't do their jobs hard enough, or they didn't do this or that, and they've kept their jobs. Admitted that they lied about something. Rachel Nichols, again, I'm just thinking of sports. These are all white women. They admitted things, kept their jobs, moved on to other jobs, still in sports. And then the black women who are in that line of work as sideline reporters don't get the respect. Pam Oliver, doing the work for years, getting the number 2 position, gets demoted from 1 to 2 for Erin Andrews, who's had all kinds of stuff going on in her life, ups and downs. So it's institutions again. And this is why I say to people, whether it's politics or academia with Dr. Arday, or anything else, you cannot divorce the individual from the institution. You cannot. The institution plays a major role. That is a system. You cannot. That's why it drives me up the bend to see people talking about the personalities. I get it. There are people that you need to talk about. I'm talking about a professor, a brother who's no longer with us. I'm simply saying that the institution has to always be attached. You cannot divorce that. You cannot act as if the institution doesn't play a role, because it does. And to that point, Renee writes, Omar, Cambridge probably did not want him there anyway and made his time there very uncomfortable. Who knows? I think it's obviously true, Renee, and I do agree with you that while I wasn't at Cambridge, I keep saying Columbia. I don't know why. Cambridge knew that he was getting abused for 3 years. I think, Renee, without knowing anything more than that, I think that speaks for itself. And their lack of support for him behind the scenes, in my view, and I don't have any evidence, but clearly he wasn't supported. I mean, I just read out the letter, part of the letter again. And his time there was probably very uncomfortable. I agree, just unbelievable, writes Victoria. If Cambridge, I think, if Cambridge, I think if Cambridge had spoken out in advocacy of Dr. Arday at the beginning of his tenure there and repeated their support of him periodically in response to these attacks, it would have at least made it more bearable for him, writes Victoria. She continues, if not saved his life. To be matter of fact, I think for Cambridge, his death relieved a headache for their board of trustees and president. I agree. Victoria, thanks for writing that. I absolutely believe that that's true. We've seen this over and over again. We've seen this with situations on campus where there have been rapes of women on campus and how these motherfucking trustees stick up for, essentially, for the rapist and let the woman twist in the wind. We've seen this again. Institutions. We've seen this in the military. Institutions. Pete Hegseth not promoting the black women and these black people who had the credentials. Institutions. He represents an institution, as unqualified as he is. That is an institution. It's a system. And people have got to keep that in mind in all of these situations. It's an institution. It's a system. That's what it is. And people love to distract away from that. Oh, it's this personality over here. Oh, it's that one over there. There are systems that govern all of this. We don't act outside of a system. We're all in a system of some kind. The individual in these institutions is part of that institution, and the attacks on that individual are institutional attacks. When you don't back this brother up, institutional attack. And Victoria writes, I'm sure he's vetted. That's why they should have supported him. Exactly, Omar. Yes, Victoria. And again, I know that you wrote this earlier, Victoria, and I'm going to try to catch up to your current comments. But this is exactly the thing. Cambridge did not do enough. Exactly my above point, Omar. Cambridge did not do enough for our brother privately, but even more importantly, publicly. Yes. Victoria, you are right on. Do you agree, Victoria writes, that 3 years ago they hired him in a very different global social climate than today, Omar? And it's a very good question, Victoria. Thanks for asking it. I do think that the climate 3 years ago, socially, I think was probably quite the same as it is now. Um, I think that when you have someone like this brother was ahead of his time. And I don't mean to sound like sometimes there's I'm not over egging this with Dr. Arday, but the brother had accomplished so much with with autism. This guy, again, he was diagnosed as an autistic on a high functioning level. He had Asperger's syndrome. The guy, again, had not spoken a single word in his life until he was 11 years old. And he could not read or write until he was 18. And instead of people celebrating that kind of immense ascendancy amidst the adversity and the trials and tribulations, they're talking about him allegedly saying things that he ran 600 miles in 6 days. So what? I don't know that the global climate, Victoria, was that much different. But I know what you mean. I think social media has been very abusive from the start. And 3 years ago, Elon Musk still owned X or Twitter. And 3 years ago, Donald Trump, even though he wasn't in the White House 3 years ago, was still lurking around. And there are social movements all over the world that continue to promote hate and race and anti-black racism. You've got I think there's some elections coming up soon in Germany, and the AfD, which is a far right wing white nationalist party, is basically poised to take power in significant ways, in many ways. And I'm watching those I think I don't know exactly when the election is in Germany. There had been some parliamentary elections there not long ago. I think there's going to be some again. It might be even this weekend. I have to go look. I have to go look it up, Victoria. But that is happening soon. And AFD, all the reports now are basically saying they're poised to take power. Um, 3 years ago, the AFD was also was growing in power. I'm only saying this. I know this is not the U.S. You're talking about the U.K. 3 years ago, you had a conservative government in the United Kingdom. 3 years ago, you had all kinds of things going on in the UK. The far right wing has always been a part of the United Kingdom. Um, whether it's the National Front of the 1950s, 60s, and 70s and before, or and into the 80s, whether it is uh, Britain First movement, whether it's the Keep Britain White movement, whether it's the Teddy Boys of the 1950s, I mean, I can go through Victoria and everyone else watching, I can go through the whole history of these anti-black racist groups in my native England, in my native UK. And this stuff has always been here. Um, so I like the question that you're asking, Victoria. I really appreciate it. But I don't think, excuse me, I don't think really that the climate 3 years ago globally and socially was really that much different. I think what they had, and again, Victoria, I'm obviously speculating because I have not sat down with anybody at Cambridge. Um, and I know I keep saying Columbia. I don't know why, but I am. I'm going to try to stop doing that. Um, Cambridge has been an institution that's been hundreds of years old. And the thing for me, Victoria, is that in 1965, and this is so interesting, and this is interesting how things come together. I'm giving away this I Am Not Your Negro, not this exact one, but a copy of this. And in 1965, 61 years ago, James Baldwin debated the white conservative William F. Buckley at where? Cambridge University. Isn't that interesting how things happen, coincidences or not? In fact, during this film, there is some archival footage of James Baldwin at Cambridge University. He won the debate, by the way, just for the record, against William F. Buckley, who was considered the father of the conservative movement back then. And so I just think that the climate was pretty much the same. But it's a really good question that you ask. Columbia, gosh, oh my gosh, the drinking game. Every time I say Columbia instead of Cambridge, Cambridge has. See, the thing is, if Cambridge can open its door for a debate for James Baldwin in 1965, when I would say, Victoria, the climate was far worse globally than it is now. Still, it's rough now, but it's always been rough. As you and I know, as black people in the room here, we both and other black people watching this, we all can attest to this. This stuff has been with us every day of our lives and our relatives' lives and our grandparents, great grandparents, our ancestors' lives. And so, if Cambridge can invite James Baldwin to their university to have a debate, and they declared him the winner easily in the debate. In fact, the whole debate's on YouTube somewhere. In a climate that was much, much worse, in 1965, everybody, Malcolm X was assassinated. He wasn't allowed into London, by the way. See again, I am not afraid to talk about the place I'm from. I'm not afraid to. And you've got a book, I'm trying to find out where it is here, called Empire Land, which is about the British Empire and what it's done to black people and to other people who are brown as well. And Empire Land by Safnam Sangera, about the British Empire. And the thing is, London would not allow Malcolm X in to speak weeks before he would be assassinated in 1965. So, I mean, I think I've gone around to give more contextual flavor to my answer, Victoria, but I don't think the climate was very different from 3 years ago than it is now or ever. Um, I think that Victoria, I think they saw that in this brother somebody who really not only could bolster Cambridge, but also bring a different dimension to Cambridge and to invite in this realm and this new generation of professors. I mean, again, I have not gone through their hiring statement. I could have and should perhaps have researched Cambridge University and any public statement they may have made on their website, at least, welcoming Dr. Jason Arday into its ranks. Maybe I should have done that before I came on here. So that's my fault. And I'm sorry that I did not do that. I will endeavor to do that and maybe do maybe a second Substack. I don't know, to have more of a fulsome conversation about that. But I'm not going to just let this story go because some people will just get the hot take and then they'll move on to something else. You'll have the media get their little 5 seconds of reporting on this and then they'll move on. They already have moved on, barely, most of them, many of them. They got their pound of flesh. A brother is dead. They got their pound of flesh. And I hear people, oh, we shouldn't be talking about this, shouldn't judge this, we shouldn't do this. I hear that. But we are black people in the world. We don't have to stick by these rules of politeness and respectability for your comfort, because that's what that really is. We know what this is. Just like we know what Nolan Wells is. We know what this is. And these are institutions, again, institutions who decide to slow down an investigation or to allow speculation. That's an institutional choice. It's not just one sheriff in Jackson County, Mississippi. It's an institution's choice to continue this kind of oppression and oppressive tactics against yet another, for the million and one time, 15th millionth time, grieving black family. That's the choice that an institution makes, that it doesn't make when a white victim is found dead. A white victim does not go through this. The family of that white victim does not get this kind of neglect. It doesn't. But we do. We do. Allowing stuff to be speculative. I mean, to me, again, all these things are connected in different ways by the principle of the action or the lack of action. That's the principle that all of these things are combined in. Institutions, whether it is the Mississippi sheriff, whether it is the county of Jackson County, whether it is Pete Hegseth and the Pentagon, institutions, whether it is Cambridge University and Dr. Jason Arday, institutions, whether it is the corporate news media, institutions, the fourth estate, institutions are powerful. They make these decisions or they don't make them. No statements by the sheriff that say, look, please, we really urge you not to put out anything on social media. And you've seen this so many times when they do investigations. We urge you not to speculate. We urge you to please not speculate on social media. We're doing a very important investigation. These things can help compromise the investigation. Have you heard a word about that in the case of Nolan Wells? That the folks there in Jackson County Sheriff Office, if they said anything about that, have they made statements like that? We urge you to refrain from speculating on this as it hinders our investigation. No, they're absolutely welcoming all the bullshit that you see with some of the interviews that you see. They're welcoming it. Cambridge University, could they have done something more? Absolutely. Absolutely. Do their board of trustees perhaps want this situation to be dealt with and they wanted this guy out of here? They got cold feet or they just showed you the racism that they always had? Yeah, I think that's a real strong shout for that probably happening. I know I'm speculating it's dangerous to do that because the facts, once they come in, will tell us. But even if the facts don't come in that manner, we as black people know what this is. We have seen this horror movie many millions of times before. I wonder if his former students are speaking out. Renee, that's a great question. I've not come across anything like that yet. Maybe there are, but we don't know yet. Um, Heartbreaking stuff, though, Renee. Thank you for that question. Clara Hart's joined us as well. Simone writes, truly an amazing story. They could have used hiring a man with this background as a flex. Instead, they sat back and let the wolves eat him alive. Yeah, Simone, I totally agree. They did. This brother didn't stand a chance. Again, what the media in the United Kingdom, and I know they're starting to talk about it here in the US, the New York Times did an article, I think today or yesterday, they did an article a week or two ago as well, when he resigned, I think. What the media has done is just eat this guy up. And what the media has not reported is that he got this abuse for 3 years straight. They're only reporting as if the abuse just happened around the early part of this month or late last month when The Guardian did all these stories. Oh my God, go and look at the first 7 to 10 days this month of The Guardian. Type in his name and type in The Guardian. Oh my God, this one writer, he's done a million freaking stories. Oh, I mean, it's just so vitriolic. As I said earlier, a laundry list of allegations. These are allegations, they're not facts. If you're telling me that Dr. Arday had done all these things, that's one thing. But none of these things are proven fact. The the plagiarism charge was not proven. He didn't do anything. So the only reason why you'd open an investigation if you're Cambridge is if you wanted to get rid of him or force him out. And the only other reason you'd do that investigation after another university cleared him would be you're looking at a black man in front of you and you now no longer want him there. Or you never really did in the first place, as some people have suggested in the comments or said in the comments. Greetings from South Dakota, Omar writes Clara. Thank you, Clara. Greetings as well here from San Francisco, California to you. Great to see that you're in South Dakota. That's fantastic. Thank you. Len, hello. Good morning. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining. Um, Clara writes, my daughters make fun of me. They tell me, Mom, learn to speak American. It's so funny. Clara, you talk about that. There's a statement, a saying that goes around that says, you are, how many languages I forgot what the statement is. Um, how many languages does somebody speak? Um, and then they say how many, and then they say how many languages does another person speak, and then they say another, and then they say how many languages do people in the United States speak? One, American. So I don't know. I didn't probably do a very good job of doing that to Clara, but thank you. They say that to a white female, says Clara. Oh man. And this is on the subject of talking white. right? Because remember and then forgive me, 20 minutes ago or so, I talked about this kind of thing. Um, this kind of garbage. And this comes from some black folk here in the United States, where if they see another black person and that black person ain't going, yo, man, and again, most black people don't even speak like that. But if they're not seeing that some black folk of other black people, all of a sudden, oh, you're talking white. What is talking white? What does that mean? What is it to talk white? What does talking white sound like? What is that? It's like what I always say. What are men's sports? What the fuck are men's sports? What are women's sports? What are they? Name me a woman's sport. What is that? Name me a man's sport. What the hell is that? What is talking white? What does that fucking mean? But there are black people in this chat, and you're looking at one of the people uh, right now who were told once they came to this country that they were talking white. Fuck is that? And like I said earlier, as a refresher course, we started civilization. So if anybody's going to talk anyway, and anybody has a right to talk a certain way in the view of these people, it's us. We've been talking all kinds of languages and dialects and accents from day one, before any white person walked on the earth. So this nonsense that we need to purge that out of our communities. Some people still go around with these ideas in their heads. They really do. Victoria writes, I grew up being told I was talking white and made fun of by both the black kids in my neighborhood and the white classmates and the lab mates in my predominantly white institution, high school, and universities. Both undergraduate and graduate schools, writes Victoria. Victoria continues, it's both hurtful and insulting. I would respond accordingly, articulating their ignorance. Back in the hood, I had to beat quite a few asses for this very comment. I was underestimated by both communities. Well, Victoria, I'm really sorry to hear that you went through this. Um, I went through this in England, um, not for very long. Not in England, I'm sorry. In the United States, I'm sorry. Not for very long, but it happened on one or two occasions. For you, it's always something that was much more prolonged. And it's horrible. It's horrible when this happens. I wonder how much Dr. Jason Arday faced this kind of thing from black colleagues in the United Kingdom. Or from, if he traveled abroad, did he face this? At Columbia, at Cambridge, did he face this from white colleagues? It's very hurtful. I'm with you, Victoria. It's a very hurtful thing. And I absolutely think it's horrible and deplorable that this happens. It's deplorable. So I'm with you there, Victoria. I appreciate you stood up for yourself. That's a really good thing. And you had to beat some people down and make it clear. And I'm glad that you did that. Because, some people don't get the memo until you give them the memo. And then they have no choice but to read that memo, which might be your fist. So thank you for the note there, Victoria. I appreciate that note that you have just written us, or you wrote a little bit a while ago. America, writes Melly. Yes, Hegseth the racist drunk, in my opinion. Yeah, he is. Hegseth is a 100% piece of shit, writes Simone. He certainly is. Clara writes, I got kicked off Twitter yesterday because I was very outspoken about the incident regarding the sailors who are being held hostage by the Navy and Pete Hegseth. Yeah, this is what they do. Institution, there's a choice there. So when you don't regulate the billionaire and his platform, when you give him $38 billion in government contracts, according to the Washington Post, go look that up. I'm not making that up. When you give Elon Musk $38 billion, federal government now, in grants and contracts, and then you don't, in Congress, regulate institutions, folks. Again, Congress is an institution. Congress is an institution. And you don't regulate social media. You don't put on any restrictions or strictures on that. Power has the power. Congress has the power to do that. And people can argue the efficacy of doing it or not. people can argue the efficacy of whether they choose to want to regulate an entity like social media. But case in point, the previous prime minister in the United Kingdom was able to get past PASSED, not PAST, a law that allows that no person under the age of 16 can use social media. It goes into effect in March 2027. At least someone's trying to do something. There's a similar ban in France, I think. Australia did one as well, banning people under 15 or under 16 or under 17 from using social media. Because if these folks in Congress or these other institutions are not going to regulate it, what other actions are going to be taken by leaders of countries? I mean, the previous Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Sir Keir Starmer, again, he put this now law. This is going to be a law that takes effect in March of next year. These platforms are toxic. There are other ones that we can go on. There's this one. There's some black-owned platforms like Fanbase and Spoutable that I think is black-owned or certainly black-invented. Spoutable. And I know people have their choices, but I mean, I'm on Instagram. I've been on Instagram. I've been on all kinds of, the thing is, these social media platforms, and they're owned by some really nasty people who don't have a life, who didn't have a childhood, who were abused, quite frankly. And, look at Elon Musk. Look at his father. If you want to know who Elon Musk's father is, Jesus Lord, you might want to take a shower after that. May Allah be on upon his throne and may he rest in eternal peace. That's Clara on Dr. Jason Arday, whom this Substack episode has been about. On my first day in the PhD Engineering for Psychology program, writes Victoria, a predominantly white student, I believe that's PW means predominantly white, student in my lab literally asked me, or a PW student in my lab literally asked me in the midst of the entire lab, including our tenured advisor and past department chair, who did I know on the faculty to gain admittance? Man. Victoria continues, he prefaced his question with, quote, don't take this the wrong way. I'm just asking because we've never had a black student admitted to this program, so I'm just curious, end quote. See how sick that is and how the racism just drips out of the mouths of these people? Because again, as I said earlier, white, and you posted this comment when I said this, white people by and large cannot deal with black presence anywhere. See, this is really not only about the institutional presence of black people in places where we invented all this shit, where we are the ones who, in Imhotep, the father of medicine. See, all this kind of bullshit, when our people built the pyramids, when our people did all these things around the world, and you've got some white person who is insecure, who feels deeply inferior about themselves, and now somehow threatened when black people are just being who we are and doing the things we do to uplift things and to improve things and to cultivate and to invent. And somehow this person, Victoria, has the audacity, or should I say, the caucasity, to ask you, how did you come here? Don't take this the wrong way. Yeah, I'll take it the wrong fucking way. Because you mean it the wrong way. How come I'm not asking a white student, how did you get in here? After all, some of the white students, many of them get in through legacy programs. No one talks about that shit. Dr. Arday did not get into his position at Columbia as a legacy. He didn't have parents donating millions and millions of pounds to these universities, to Cambridge. He didn't get into Cambridge because of who he knew. He didn't get in because mummy or daddy had all this largesse, or that mummy and daddy used to go to Cambridge. And so, oh, he went to Cambridge and she went to Cambridge, so my son will be there or my daughter will. No one talks about that stuff. Continues Victoria. After this white person, saw my face, he then had the audacity, or I would write, caucasity, to ask me a follow-up question. Quote, are you sure you can make it through to be the first black person to get this degree here, end quote. Continues on Victoria. When I finished a very polite verbal ass whipping of his racist ass, his face was the color of your inner shirt color. Yeah. See, this is what happens. That's when the game gets given away, Victoria. And I'm sorry, I'm very sorry that you had to experience this kind of thing, this racism from this white person who has never dealt with his own or her own insecurities, their own or whomever's white insecurity around black people, and about why is it that you as a white person out there in the world, or maybe watching this, or maybe someone in this chat who's white, why is it that when you see a black person, your reaction to seeing that black person is fear, anger, envy, hatred, jealousy, insecurity, inadequacy? Why are those things happening for you? That's a conversation you won't hear on Sky News or MS Now or Fox News, so-called news, CNN or anywhere else in these white institutions. Why is it that you have to ask Victoria, are you sure you can make it through as a black person? How come black people don't ask any white person that same question? Are you sure you can make it through? And why are the white people who do this so preoccupied with whether a black person can do something? Why the fuck don't you mind your own fucking business and focus on what your ass can do or not do? And keep in your fucking lane and leave black people alone. How about that? How about being preoccupied with your own fate rather than worrying about what a black person over here is doing? Are you scared? Are you feeling the heat? Are you worried that she's going to do better than you will and that she'll outstrip your ass? Because here's the thing, folks, and this is all connected back to Dr. Arday. How many fucking times have you read stories, and I've read them in the New York Times and elsewhere, of black valedictorians having their valedictorianship be challenged by some white parent who then says, oh, my child should be a co-valedictorian, or who questions the credentials of the black person whose GPA is 4.5 and head and shoulders above the rest of her class. Head and shoulders above the rest of his class. But then some white parent says, well, my little boy Johnny or my little girl Joanna got a 3.9 GPA. She should be co-valedictorian. No, she shouldn't. But that doesn't stop these people, these white folk who do this, from kicking up a stink and trying to get a university down in Mississippi and elsewhere, because this actually happens, it's happened many times, to try to make their son or daughter a co-valedictorian, or actually to get the black person off of the stage as the valedictorian. It happens, it happens. We don't want you here. We don't want you here, Dr. Arday. We don't want you here. You're too good for this place. You're too black for this place. You wear your hair long. You've got dreads or locks, or you've got braids down to your waist. We can't have that at Cambridge. You're soft spoken. Oh my goodness. Can't have that. Oh, you may have said that you ran 600 miles in 6 days. This is a man with freaking Asperger's syndrome. People with, see, here's the thing that kills me, folks. Here's the thing that kills me here. I'll read out the rest of your comments and I'll give away this book, the copy of this for paid subscribers. Here's the thing that kills me. This brother had Asperger's, diagnosed with autism. And nobody gave a shit about that. Nobody. Barely was covered in the post-mortem of him. Mentioned, but on Sky News yesterday, no comment yesterday evening. Nothing. Nothing really about his. The guests came on. The guests who were invited on to talk about him, who knew him, talked about his autism. But the host, no, didn't say that he had been abused for 3 years. But in this very same year, this very same calendar year, in the same bloody country, what did we have in this past February of this year? Oh, the BAFTAs. And what happened at the BAFTAs in this very freaking year? Oh, yeah. I seem to remember. Was it Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo? Ah. Oh, and they were on a stage somewhere at the BAFTAs. Oh, and wasn't there a white guy who had, what was it now? Checks notes. Oh, yeah, Tourette's syndrome. And what did we hear? The N word, N this, N that, shouted out loud, N, N, N. Oh, yeah, and what else happened? Oh, the excuses. Well, he has Tourette's. Oh, he said the word, he has Tourette's. So, he didn't mean it. He wasn't racist, but he had Tourette's, you see. So he didn't mean any harm. He was just one of those Dukes of Hazzard. Just a good old boy, never meaning no harm. He didn't mean any harm. See, we make excuses. We make excuses. And all the stuff online and all the people getting upset that you would say something about Tourette's and that you're being offensive, you're attacking. No, I'm not attacking any Tourette's. What I am attacking is the excuses that get made when a white person says something. And then when a brother or a sister says something or does something, motherfuckers jump all over him. Oh, 600 miles in 6 days. So motherfuckers now jump on him. They open up an investigation on some shit like that. And the guy has Asperger's. I didn't hear anybody talking about how, well, he has Asperger's. Maybe he says something and that was part of the Asperger's, the autism that he has. I didn't hear that. But when the white person says it, oh, he has Tourette's, and so he can be as racist the fuck as he wants. And the BBC, institution, the same media that ran all these freaking stories on Dr. Arday just 6 freaking months ago, in this same year that we are in, 2026, allowed a recorded edition of the BAFTAs to have that word in its broadcast. It wasn't live, recorded edition. But someone shouts out free Palestine. Oh, can't have that in there. Oh, no. Oh, no, we can't have that. Institutions, folks. These things tie together. Victoria, thank you for sharing this with us. I say this because academia is rife with racism that is not just ignored but encouraged. It is. Victoria, it's encouraged and accepted. As I said earlier, please, folks, and I might give this book away in the future or maybe not. There's a book called Ebony and Ivy about enslavement on college campuses, on Ivy League college campuses here in the United States. The book is written by Craig Stephen Wilder, Wilder. Craig Stephen Wilder. I would grab the book right now, but I'm not going to go and grab it. It's called Ebony and Ivy. Not the Stevie Wonder Paul McCartney song, Ebony and Ivory, but Ebony and Ivy. A whole book that goes right through this. Clara writes, this is too painful for me to handle. I'm going to say have a peaceful day, Omar. You too, Clara. I believe in talking about these things, and I understand that there are going to be people who can't deal with the conversation for whatever reason. I'm not going to characterize that. I believe in being open, honest, blunt, forthright, and having these conversations. And there's no requirement that says you have to stay and be a part of them. No one said you have to be. Clara, thank you. See you next time. Victoria writes facts 100. How did the how they did Pam Oliver is just disgusting. That sister's a true badass. She is. She's still the best sideline reporter for Fox, so-called Fox Sports. NFL sideline reporter, brilliant. And you know what, Victoria? The former NFL sideline reporter for CBS News, Michelle Tafoya, ran for Republican primary for Senate in Minnesota for the US Senate. And she won that primary. And so she is going to run against Peggy Flanagan, by the way, this November in Minnesota for the right to win the US Senate seat there that is being vacated by the departing Tina Smith. Michelle Tafoya, a white woman, is a wackadoodle. Go and look up some of the stuff she said about things. What a wackadoodle. I don't see her being not that I'm suggesting that she be persecuted, but I don't see anyone persecuting her ass. I don't see articles in newspapers in the United States relentlessly going after her. And if anything, she is more of a public figure than Dr. Arday. Dr. Arday is a private figure inside a public institution. That's what he is. That's what he, let me correct that. That's what he was. There is a lot of folk in the chat having conversations around this. And I like the fact that people have chat conversations around the subjects. I really do. Because it gives us a chance to talk about the personal experiences we've had. And that's the kind of form I intend to keep doing. Again, I really I look, we have liberty and I can laugh with the best of them. I'm a serious person, but I know how to have fun. I know how to laugh and have a good time and all that. But I'm really happy that this forum is going and asking the tough questions and reliving some of these painful experiences, not to trigger you at all, but to really, I think, fashion an environment where we really talk about these things. Lots of people have difficult discussions on these forums, on these fora, on Substack. And again, I don't see all the joking, but I think today everybody has really focused on the conversation here and not on some jokes. I mean, I would not joke about in other people's forums because I'm there with an intent of seriousness and learning something and participating or maybe just listening the entire way. So I'm not going to be sitting here making side jokes. And I think that, again, no one's doing it here today at all. But when this happens, I think and I've warned people before, it hasn't happened today, and I thank you for that. But I definitely will be very strict. I'm just very strict on some things, and people don't like that. And there's a time and a place. And I see great forms with Professor, I'm going to start name checking. Professor Timothy Snyder does an excellent job. Professor Ruth Ben Giat, right? They do some great forms on some really important subjects, serious topics. And I don't see people in that chat joking. But why would people do that in this chat where I am doing this forum? I've got some ideas, but I believe in really honest dialogue with people, and it might make people uncomfortable, but again, so be it. Because if you can't be uncomfortable about what's going on, if you can't be uncomfortable about this brother no longer being here, and that this brother 10 days ago had to resign from Cambridge and had to write this letter at all, then there's something wrong with you, quite frankly. Clara Hart says, welcome Lynn Hart to the Substack. Take it that Lynn Hart is either your daughter or someone else in your family. Lynn, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. Ha ha, Omar. That's Victoria. Hopefully you aren't foreshadowing something auspicious at Columbia. Well, Victoria, as we know, Columbia has certainly had its fair share of publicity now, hasn't it? And here's the other thing, Victoria. While again, we're on the topic of institutions and academia, look at the sister at Harvard. Remember the sister at Harvard, Dr. Margaret whomever, who was the first black dean of Harvard, or certainly the first black female dean of Harvard University? Remember what happened to her? And the criticism she got when she went before Congress 3 years ago or so? 3, 4, 2 years ago, and she got fired or she resigned. She wasn't prepared. The institution did not prep her and prepare her. Institutions, folks, and everybody piled on her. And I remember all the social media comments. And again, I think that, again, the chilling effect here is to tell a black person, if you're thinking of going in as an academician to an esteemed place of learning like a Cambridge, like a Columbia, like a Harvard, these are all predominantly white institutions. You had better think twice. That is the chilling effect. And by the way, if they're telling you this, you're always welcome at Howard. You're always welcome at Morehouse. You're always welcome at Spelman. You're always welcome at Tuskegee. I can go through all of the uh, HBCUs. And some of them have their issues too, right? We talked about the dress code at Tuskegee, didn't we, recently? We talked about the Howard enrollment situation and problem. Although at least a good few of the 500 people who had their invitations rescinded have now been re-enrolled. There's problems at any academic institution, and some of the ones that are run by black folk are, some of the people running them have some real problems. Roland Martin's talked about this many times on his show. Please watch Roland Martin Unfiltered, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, youtube.com/Roland S, as in Sam Martin. A lot of these institutions, listen, none of us is perfect. We all have lots to learn. I've got lots to learn. You've got lots to learn. We're all works in progress. We're not the genuine finished article. None of us is. Dr. Arday was trying to instill in his students all these things, these lessons. This brother was an inspiration. This brother was on the top of the heap. This brother was really doing things in academia that I think were fantastic things. And that story needs to be told, and I intend to continue to tell it. I think this brother needs a lot more coverage, not only about his death, but about what he really did when he was here with us. And I'm going to be focusing a lot more on that the next time I do something on Dr. Arday. His book, by the way, and I haven't mentioned this, was scheduled to be published in the United Kingdom later on this month. There are people now trying to say, no, don't publish it. Simon and Schuster UK is the publisher in the United Kingdom of his memoir. I forgot what it's called now. But that is still scheduled to come out, I think, on the 22nd of August or sometime during this month. And it should. I think it's already published in the United States, but I have to look that up. I'm going to buy a copy of his memoir to support him. And I'm going to see if I don't know if I can get in touch with someone that's near his family. I've tried to get in touch with people in the United Kingdom And understandably, they didn't want to. They didn't respond, which I can completely understand. But I really want to get broader on this subject and celebrate this brother because he should be here with us. I believe that we need to put our arms around our people. I do. I believe in that. As a black man, I believe in that. We need to come together as black people and close ranks around our own. That's what we need to do. And the white people who consider themselves allies need to do their work separately and do the same kinds of things in white communities around people like Dr. Arday, around people like name the black person in the last 5 minutes. Whether it's Nolan Wells, whether it's the sister there in Mississippi as well, Tasia Fortune, whether it is the brother Tyler Smith, or the other brother Daniel Irving there in Texas, or whether it's the sister in Charlotte, North Carolina, who was found lynched. Come on now. Whether it's a sister who was beaten, or I would say sexually assaulted on camera by that cop in that traffic stop on that video that Don Lemon shows over and over again without warning that it's triggering. I go through all the lists. We as black people need to close ranks around our people. That's what I think. And these times demand it. They really do. If this generation we're in, if this generation now, or if any of us, regardless of generation, can do one thing at all in the aftermath of such a painful tragedy like this that did not have to ever happen, it is that we need to close ranks and start supporting and celebrating our people and putting our arms around them and sending love to them and sending love to this family of this brother. Because I don't know, I really had a hard time sleeping last night. And I know I'm not I can't imagine how his family must have felt. They probably haven't had any sleep. Dr. Arday could have been you or me. And I'm talking to the black people watching this right now. It could have been either one. It could have been any one of us. Victoria wrote and spoke about the things that she's suffered and endured and dealt with. Other people have shared their stories. It could have been any one of us. The Empire author is, I got to pull this off the shelf, Safnam Sangara. And I'll pull this off the shelf. I'll read the name and then I'll show you the book. And I'll also post this. Victoria, the name is S as in Sam, A, T as in Thomas, H, N as in North, A, M as in Mike. And then the last name is Sangera. Sanghera. I will type it in the chat and I'll show you the book. Hopefully you can see that. That's the book. All right. And it's an important book. Um, How Imperialism Has Shaped Modern Britain is the subtitle, and I'm going to type it in the chat right now. And he's also on social media. I think he's on X. Safnam Sangera, professor, and historian. I think historian and professor, or maybe both. I put that in the chat right now. So this is the book, Victoria. There you go. Melly has joined. We recognize this behavior. Crickets from the sheriff department. This is what I said a little while ago. The Baldwin connection to Cambridge is not lost on me, writes Dr. Coleman. The debate was inspirational, Dr. Coleman writes, and some people don't like that fact, not to mention Baldwin's genius without a college degree. Yes, Baldwin did not have a college degree. He didn't go to college. People forget that about James Baldwin. And he is the greatest, in my view, um, the greatest intellectual of the 20th century. I think he's certainly in the top two or three. James Baldwin was the greatest, in my view, probably the greatest intellectual of the 20th century. And that's just my view. I've read a number of people. I know of a number of people, and so do you. I think he was. And he had this unique ability. And I'm also giving this book, this DVD, this Blu-ray slash DVD away. Also, knowing that on August 2nd, just over a week ago, it was the 102nd birthday of James Baldwin. He's born in 1924, August the 2nd of that year. So, again, these things come to connection and fruition for a reason. I'm going to just go. Thank you, JE, for joining. Late hello. Good morning, Terry Ann, joining in from Seattle. Thank you. Great to, I love the geography. Seattle, South Dakota, um, North Carolina, um, Atlanta, New York, um, wherever you are across the world, across the country. Thank you for joining. I'm going to wind down here shortly. Reagan, Cassandra, and others have joined since. Um, Comments by JE on social media bans. I'm going to try to get up to speed with your very latest comments. Um, let's see here. Academic scholarships, trying to finish a higher education goal. Um, yeah, it's horrible. JE talks about having her financial aid and scholarships taken away from her, and that she had been sidetracked for over a decade by multiple sclerosis. Again, these are about, as JE points out, and as I've said before, JE came in. These are about institutions and the choices that they make. And for whether it's JE in her situation, or whether it's particularly, again, I want to really focus on this brother, Professor Arday, Dr. Arday. I mean, the institutions are making these choices to do or not do something. And this brother had no chance because the institutions didn't give him a chance. He was abused for 3 straight years. I mean, come on, folks. What I mean, what? Yeah, Melly, we don't have to ask a white person. I'm paraphrasing what Melly said. We don't have to ask a white person if they're going to get through a year at this college or university because we're not insecure like that. Yeah, I agree. We're not. We don't have these. We're not preoccupied with white people, but white people are, for the most part, by and large, preoccupied with black people. The vast majority of white people are preoccupied with black people. If we're somehow not supposed to be in academia, if we're somehow, as your United States Constitution once called us, 3/5 of a human being, why are you so obsessed with us? And we're, of course, not 3/5 of a human being. The US Constitution had that in its pages. Why are you so obsessed with us? Why are you, as Godfrey says, the great comedian Godfrey, and he is incredibly funny. He's here in San Francisco this weekend. He's absolutely hilarious. He's absolutely hilarious. Why are you picking at black people? Why are you pick? Why are you doing that? If we're supposedly inferior to you, why do you keep coming up to us? Why do you keep bothering us? Why do you lynch? I mean, come on, folks. Why? If we're somehow this group of people who shouldn't be in academia, why is it that there are all these videos by Godfrey called Leave Black People Alone, where white men, usually white men, and some white women do this too, are coming up to black people sight unseen and trying to come up to them and stepping to them and getting in their face. Black people minding our own business. Why is that happen? Why are you always coming up to us? Why don't you mind your own business? And then when the black person retaliates in self-defense, oh my God, he attacked me. Carmelo Anthony, that brother now is going to be behind bars for 35 years. And these white boys kept coming at him and coming at him and coming at him. And then they attacked him. And then in self defense, he stabbed one of them to death. And now he is behind bars for 35 years. Columbia. Cambridge. For 3 years, this brother had got abused from Cambridge. And they kept coming at him and coming at him and coming at him. And then now he's no longer here. institutions. The disability gap between Dr. Coleman writes white and black treatment is a whole discussion in itself. Yes, it is. And of course, Dr. Coleman's writing that in response to what I said a few minutes back about the very same country where I'm from, the United Kingdom, in the very same calendar year that we're in, 2026, and the very different treatments that the white guy with Tourette's got when he shouts N, 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 N all over a broadcast during the BAFTAs with Michael B. Jordan and the other brother there, Delroy Lindo from Sinners, both of them from Sinners, were up there on that stage. And all the excuses that got made versus this brother, Dr. Arday, and these comments where he says that he made he raised £8 million for charity in whatever time, and he ran 600 miles in 6 days. Oh my gosh, we've got to investigate him now. Never taking into account his autism, never taking into account Asperger's syndrome, never taking any of that into account. He hadn't been able to speak a single word until he was 11. That is completely sidelined, and our humanity is completely obliterated as black people. White society and white institutions and many white people, a vast number of them, do this. But then when we raise critical questions about the BBC and its choices and about what was happening with this white guy shouting this out, everybody runs to, well, he has Tourette's. He's not responsible for what he says. He's not racist. He has Tourette's. But I didn't hear any of that kind of defense or understanding for a guy like this. Same country, 6 months apart, two people with conditions that they had. Dr. Coleman, it's a whole nother discussion. I agree with you. Bullshit, Simone writes on that he didn't mean it nonsense regarding the same subject of the guy at the BAFTAs. Yeah, I totally agree. I call bullshit on that too, Simone. And then people, when I talked about this earlier in the year, back in February when it happened, people were going, oh, you're insensitive to Tourette's sufferers. I'm raising critical questions about the whole situation from the BBC on down. And no one's saying anything about this guy having Asperger's syndrome, high functioning autistic diagnoses, and no one's saying anything about that. Somehow this brother's humanity isn't worth going into. Somehow Sky News decides it's not going to read the first half of the family statement. In that first half that says that for 3 years, not 3 days, not 3 weeks, not 3 months, 3 whole years, from the day he stepped foot into Cambridge as the youngest black professor ever in that institution's history, 37 years old. From that day to the end of his life, he was bullied. Torrents. What's the word? What did he say in the letter? An unrelenting level of public scrutiny and personal attack. Page 2 of the letter. An unrelenting level of public scrutiny and personal attack. For 3 years. Sadly, the years since my appointment have also been marked by an unrelenting level of public scrutiny and personal. 3 years. But somehow his humanity, somehow his status, that doesn't get, no one takes any of that into account. They just keep pounding the brother and pounding the brother. The thing is, even with Tourette's, one must be exposed to such language and actually have to think about the terms being said, says JE. Yeah. But see, that's the thing that, like Dr. Coleman said, that whole discussion is definitely needed. And even in a discussion like that, nobody thinks to bring up the kind of thing that Dr. Coleman or JE brought up just there that I just read out from JE. And that actually does the actual condition and the people who have it a disservice when you don't have a fulsome discussion around it in that manner, in that context. Angie says, bullseye to yours truly. Thank you, Angie. Goodness gracious, what is wrong with me this morning? They could have taken it out of the recorded version, writes Terry Ann. Yeah, Terry Ann, they should have. The BBC should have done that. An institutional choice. And the BBC, blimey, if you've ever followed the BBC for more than 10 minutes, you know there's a lot of compromised issues there. They have had their ups and downs. You even have this lunatic in the White House trying to sue them. They've just tried to subpoena him and his family. Good luck. I hope they are able to do that. BBC's had its moments too, to say the least. The BBC that shelved a report on the mass pedophile, Jimmy Savile, in my native country. Mass pedophile. Shelved the report that they did on him while he was alive. Shelved it. Oh, we don't want to talk about Jimmy Savile because he's too beloved by the kids, by people. I remember Jimmy Savile. But we can't talk about that. And this guy who I didn't even want to continue talking about him. And I liked him before I knew, of course, that he was doing this to these kids. We need these conversations. Cassandra Butler says, thanks. Renee writes, we need these conversations. Thank you, Omar, and for what you do in giving us a space to express ourselves. Thank you, Renee. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's an important thing we have to talk about. And I'm sorry, I know I say this a lot, but too many times on this forum, and maybe I should just not say this, but I'm going to. Too many times, again, and you can call me what you want when I say this, I just think there's a lot of bullshit that gets talked about for clicks and for subscriptions. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't welcome your subscription. I do. I welcome your paid subscription. I welcome your free subscription. But there's a lot of BS that gets talked about on here. In my view, I'm sorry, when it comes to these elections this year, we need to be focusing on voting. I'm going to be doing something on vote. I've been doing it on my podcast, the Politicrat. Oh boy, senior moments aplenty. And I just think it's really important, folks, that we be about something, not being about building a fan club, but being about building a better place in which we can be. It's about building us as better people. It's about learning from our mistakes and trying to better ourselves. It's about learning from each other. It's about making connections with each other. It's about growing personally and growing as a community, but growing for the reasons of empowerment and edifying and educating and being a more open person to the world that you're living in. That's what it's about. It's more than left, right. And it's more than Donald Trump doing the latest bullshit that he's doing. It's about the institutions. It's about the world we're in. It's about us as people. It's about Black people and us closing ranks amongst ourselves and around each other. It's about that love for ourselves as Black people. It's about empowering each other as Black people. It's about supporting Black owned businesses out here, especially Black women owned business, Black men too. I'm not throwing shade to the brothers at all, but it's about supporting Black women out here. The most disrespected woman on the planet, the most disrespected person on the planet is the Black woman. Malcolm X said that in 1964, I believe it was. We need to reestablish the center of this universe around Black women and around Black people at large. And if we had done that, I'm not blaming you and me for this, but if Columbia University had decided, if Cambridge University had decided to do this, we absolutely would have had this guy alive today. We would have. And JE writes, unfortunately, we need conversations such as this. Yeah, we do. It's better to have a serious conversation with a diverse community of people worried about these issues than try to find solutions to these issues to think about that aren't obscured by hateful trolls looking to misinform and misdirect attention away from the discussion into physical violence on the streets. JE, I agree. I know I read that very quickly, but I really want to continue reading through all your comments and give away this book, give away this film shortly. And JE, I'm with you. I agree. And there's too many trolls, which is why before you came in, I talked about people sometimes in these chats who are all about making jokes and laughing. And listen, people, there's a time and a place. I'm not someone who's against levity. I do it myself, but not during these kinds of conversations on these platforms. Not when it comes to this. Imagine me being in a forum where women of any background, black women in particular, are talking about the abuse they get, about the opportunities they don't get, and the jobs they've lost, over 600,000 jobs that black women have lost in this country alone in 2025. Black men have lost close to that same amount of jobs in one calendar year under this regime. Imagine a conversation or form around that, around safety, around black women needing to have the protections. Institutions, the WNBA, for example, on a smaller scale, but black women being abused there, and the WNBA, an institution owned by the NBA, not coming to their defense, not putting safeguards in. Imagine there's a conversation about that, and I'm in a chat having jokes, joking about. Really? And so the trolls that do this, that claim that they're your friend, that may even subscribe to you, they come in and then they just troll about and they laughing about with shit that has nothing to do with the conversation we're having. If you're bored, whoever you are, and it's not happening today in this chat, which is great, but if you're bored, go start a Substack where you just be an ass and be bored. Go ahead. If what we talk about here bores you, or inspires you because you're so uncomfortable, so you've got to make jokes, go make the jokes on your own Substack. Do your Substack, show yourself to the world, because half the people don't put up avatars at all. And they come into these forums and they bullshit about with, like Jay says, with the goal of trying to misdirect and change the subject. My whole thing now is if people do that in my Substack lives, they're getting blocked and banned. Period. So that is a warning. And I won't issue that warning again. Simone writes, I can't watch the video. She's talking about the video of the sister, the young black woman, the young black girl. She's 18 years old. You can call her a woman at that point. But the bottom line is that she was absolutely manhandled. And yeah, she was punched. But I think that if there was no dash camera, I think that cop, that state trooper, who the hell he was, would have probably raped her. I mean, let's be frank about this. And I know what I'm saying will be triggering to some. And again, these tough conversations have to be had. They do. And I don't. And I think that you know, I just think I'm at an age now where I just don't have, and it is about getting older. I think where I just don't tolerate the nonsense. I have a really, I think, short tolerance for time being wasted. I think, as you know. Thank you for addressing this topic today. These are our nephews. This is Dr. Coleman. Fathers and sons, and they deserve more than to be treated like this. Yes. Seconded here and seconded by other people in the chat, including Simone. I've said this often, and I said, Dr. Coleman, I'm going to be doing more on Dr. Arday, not only today, but in the future on this Substack Live and on the Politicrat podcast. And I'm going to try to get somebody on so we can have a real conversation about this, about Dr. Arday and what he did in his life and the things he did to uplift people and to inspire people. The student, he got, again, I want to repeat this as well. He got a lot of support around the world. A lot of support around the world. But it's always that loud, vocal group of people in lower numbers that, with all their hate and their vitriol, their racism, their anti black racism, always get the most airtime. And an institution that left this brother, for lack of a better term, hanging. There's lots of great books on the history of the enslavement trade, Je, and there's a load of books. I'll give you one to start with. Je, it's called, and I have it on this shelf behind me as well. It's called Before the Mayflower. You can probably see it right there. Before the Mayflower, A History of Black America is written by Lerone Bennett Jr. I'll type his name in the chat. There are other books. There's a book called They Came Before Columbus, which is written by Ivan Van Sertima, but I'm going to type in the author for the book Before the Mayflower, and that is written by the person that I'm typing in now. All right, I'm coming toward the end of this Substack Live. Thank you very much indeed. And this is the author. Um, so thank you, thank you, thank you for asking the question there. And Je, I hope you did see that name in the chat. D. Batista's joined us. Melly writes, Omar, the father of the bully, learned behavior from his dad. Free Carmelo, 100%. Yeah, this is the thing. This is the same thing with Elon Musk, the same thing with any of these billionaires. The same thing with the guy who bullied Carmelo Anthony. Nobody looked at that brother's humanity. A young boy that was relentlessly abused and racially abused by these two white boys, these white men. And nobody looked at the humanity of Carmelo Anthony. They just jumped on, oh, you killed somebody. Ugh. But they never looked at the reasons he defended himself. It was self-defense. They weren't interested in that. The white people who were screaming and shouting, oh, Carmelo, oh, you're a killer. You throw him under the jail. They didn't care. They didn't want to. They didn't care to want to look at. They weren't interested in the humanity of that brother. They weren't. Just like these people weren't interested in the humanity of the brother in South Carolina who got killed by the Asian grocery store owner. Ran after him, chased the brother down. 14 years old, that brother was. 14 or 16, I forget which. Chased him down. Oh, you stole something. He didn't steal anything. But you chase him down like you chased down Dr. Jason Arday. You hunted him down like he was some kind of animal. And you, as the Asian store owner in South Carolina, thought it was a good idea to run the length of nearly 2 football fields chasing after the brother. He didn't have anything in his hands. But he trips over, and then you shoot him in his back, and then you claim self-defense. And then the all-white jury in South Carolina goes, oh, I think he was defending himself. I mean, he was the one chasing after the brother. Carmack Belton, his last name. I forget what his first name was. Last name was Carmack Belton. His first name I forget. Oh yeah, he chased after him for more than a football field, almost 2 football fields, chasing after this guy for what he said was him stealing something. Oh, that's self-defense. He shot him in the back. Oh yeah, that's self-defense. He's not guilty. That happened this year. He was acquitted. Carmelo Anthony defending himself in legitimate self-defense. But no, he goes to prison. I'm telling you, this is what this is. Dr. Arday. Oh, he was found not guilty of any plagiarism by a previous university, Liverpool John Moores University. No plagiarism. Case closed. Our investigation's finished. Oh, Cambridge says, oh, well, he was found not guilty at Liverpool John Moores University. Let's open up an investigation about him here. Come again? Come again? You see the pattern. Choices get made. As Charles Dutton said in the film Menace to Society, which came out in 1993, to one of the other black characters in the film, the hunt is on and you're the prey. Menace to Society, 1993 movie, directed by the Hughes brothers. Yeah, that WNBA thing is so bad. I did a whole podcast episode on the WNBA this week on the Politicrat. I will do WNBA separately, but I will mention this. That's another institution. That commissioner, the white female commissioner, needs to go. Kathy Engelbert has to go. And the NBA, which is the architect which finances the WNBA, they need to do a whole lot freaking better than what they're doing. White female head coach says a racist thing about a black female player on the opposite team. It's heard by everybody on the bench of that black female player, Angel Reese, in her team, the Atlanta Dream. Oh, protect your, what is she, a protected species? And the white female head coach gets suspended for how many games? One. Oh, again, the excuses. Oh my God. Oh, she's from Australia. In Australia, we say this all the time. We say the word protected species all the time about things. Oh, but you're not fucking in Australia. You're in the fucking United States. Or you're in Canada, which is also part of North America, which has its own history in Canada of anti black racism. All the excuses that get made for the white person who says the racist thing or does the racist thing. I just gave you a whole load of them. All the excuses that get made and the institutions that cover for them. An institution like the WNBA that black women built. Come on now. Black women built the WNBA. If it wasn't for black women, that league would be shit. There'd be nobody in that league. Come on now. You know I'm telling the truth, folks. And the WNBA has been around for 30 years now. It's in its 30th year. And the black players on the WNBA get no respect. Much worse than Rodney Dangerfield. No respect at all. They architected this league, they built this league, they are this league. And they get zero respect. And you got, again, like Dr. Arday, the peanut gallery of racists on social media attacking Angel Reese, attacking Jackie Lloyd or Jackie Gray, I'm sorry, Chelsea Gray, all this racial abuse. And what's the WNBA doing about it? Fuck all. It's doing nothing. They met this week. They talked about the anti-trans attacks. Caitlin Clark is the great white dope or the great white nope or the great white hope, and her ass is protected. Better than your best insurance policy. She commits a technical foul, bumps into a black female referee last Saturday in the game against the Chicago Sky. And what happens? She gets a technical foul. What happens? Within 2 hours of the end of the game, that technical foul is rescinded by the league. She would have been suspended for one game. Oh, no, no suspension. The white female head coach, Sandy Brondello, makes the protected species. She gets one game. The white woman, who is the co-owner of the Seattle Storm, who is shouting at some fans in her building, who is saying that Sophie Cunningham was right to say what she said about trans people. That white owner, co-owner, got a 5-game ban from being in her own arena to watch her own team, simply for saying to those fans, how dare you say these anti-trans things. That woman got 5 games of a ban. Shows you what the WNBA thinks about looking at trans people. and how it thinks of them. And then the white head coach who says something that's clearly racist. Oh, one game. One game. And then not only that, you had another white female head coach, Becky Hammon, the same Becky Hammon of the Las Vegas Aces, who they won the championship last year in the WNBA. The same Becky Hammon who was going on about Jalen Brunson can't win anything. He's too small. He's too small. He's too small. He can't win an NBA title. That Becky Hammon. See how that turned out. That same Becky Hammon, what was she doing within a day of that suspension? Getting on a press conference saying, I support Sandy Brondello. Oh, yeah, I support her. She's a nice person. Another excuse. White people making excuses. Oh, she's a nice person. She didn't mean anything. Okay. Again, case in point, I'll go back to the NCAA championship, the women's championship this year. College basketball. Gino Auriemma, the patron saint of whiteness, won 1,000,000 championships with the University of Connecticut, UConn, the UConn women's team in basketball. Dawn Staley, the black woman, won 2 or 3 championships with the University of South Carolina. Remember all that? Back in March or April of this year, when Gino Auriemma wouldn't shake hands or complained that, oh, Dawn Staley wouldn't shake hands with him. And they shook hands at the beginning of the freaking game. And then at the end of the game, he got pissed off at her. He said some bullshit to her. And then Dawn Staley was going to come out of her face and bust his ass. And then they had to restrain her. And then afterwards, he lied to the press. Oh, well, one of her players ripped my player's jersey. And the woman whose jersey got ripped on his team, she ripped the jersey herself. The video showed it. And he's lying to the press conference saying that it was one of Dawn Staley's players who did it. Come on, man. Then people came out there defending Gino Auriemma's racist and incorrect behavior. Dan Hurley, the UConn men's coach, came out there, oh, I support him. And I'm glad that the UConn men's team lost to Michigan this year in the same NCAA, but in the men's championship. I'm glad they lost because Dan Hurley was, I'm going to support, because he's in my school, I'm going to support him. It's terrible. Terrible, folks. Life is short and you don't have time for the bullshit. Simone, thank you. Yes. Thank you, folks. Black people have to protect themselves out here, writes Melly. Yes. You know what, Melly? I say this all the time. Here in San Francisco, the black population is under 6%. Less than 6%. In California, what's the percentage of black people here? 9%. Go look it up. Census figures from 2020, it's about 9%. And let me tell you something. I walk these streets every day. I look back and around, front, back, and sideways every day or night. I don't take anything for granted out here. Period. Period, full stop. Always different rules for black people, writes D. 110%. Now I'm going to give away this book. But, I want to just expand this conversation. I plan to do this around Dr. Arday. Thank you for attending and for being so patient. It's nearly 3 hours in. I will happily tell you that I'll be able to comfortably come in under 3 hours today. Just almost 3 hours, but I'll make it under 7 hours today. So hopefully you'll see a recording of this. I wish I had the photograph. I should have brought a photograph out for Jason or Dr. Arday. This brother, we need to hold him up and we need to support his family. I don't know if there is a GoFundMe page, an official one for his family, but I anticipate there probably will be. They're going to have to deal with funeral costs. They're going to have to deal with all kinds of things. And I'm going to post this particular letter in full on my page. Okay? So stay tuned for that coming up shortly. I'll also post the titles of the 2 books that I recommended. And I know, JE, there are other books, but But those are two to start with. Maybe there were other inquiries you had, but those are the books to start with. There are other ones out here. A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn is also another book as well. And so I also talked about the book They Came Before Columbus by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. I will post that one as well. All right, I'll post the titles of all these books at the end. Here now is the giveaway. If you become a paid subscriber, you get put into the hat or in the bag here for giveaways. I give away books. I give away movies like this I'm about to give away. I give away all kinds of prizes for paid subscribers only. And I do some other extras for paid subscribers. So it pays to become a paid subscriber. So I want you to understand that your paid subscription really is worth something because you make that money back. Once you win one of these, or even two of these, or one of these things, you make all of that back. And if you're doing a yearly subscription, you make that back pretty soon. So your subscription as a paid subscriber is more than worth it. Listen, I've given away, since I restarted the giveaways after a few weeks away from them, people, they're receiving their books. Gave away a book last week, Vice President Harris, her book. She's going to run for president, folks. She's going to at some point announce when the time comes. She's clearly running, as are millions of other people. And it pays to be a paid subscriber, folks. It really does. You get these conversations. You get giveaways. I gave away a Michael Jackson picture disc on vinyl a few months ago to for a lucky subscriber. I gave away. I mean, I'm going to be giving away a Prince album soon as well on vinyl. For those of you who are Prince fans and paid subscribers, that's coming up. I'm giving away the book Regime Change in the future. I gave away a book a couple of weeks ago called Rethinking Sex, about that discussion that we had. I'm going to have another discussion on intimacy and sex and women and men and all of those things. Adult discussion, a discussion for grown-ups. So this folks, this is happening. And these are serious adult discussions. It's not meant for, it's just to, listen, there aren't too many people in the world that I've ever met in my life who have been comfortable enough to want to have these kind of conversations and vulnerable enough to want to. It's a deeply personal topic. I understand that. It's something that can be very triggering for people because of trauma, because of abuse, because of all kinds of things. But I really want to bring an adult and grown-up approach to these things. So again, paid subscribers, I do give away a lot. You can call me bragging or not. I've given away thousands of dollars worth of prizes, thousands of dollars. I'm not joking. Over the last year or so, these things are not inexpensive, and shipping, handling, this, that, the other. I Am Not Your Negro is coming to a paid subscriber very shortly. Love the Nick shirt, says Melly. Thank you. Thank you. I've got so many of these things, as you may know by now, some of you. I posted online yesterday just a portion of the Knicks memorabilia, the commemorative editions of Knicks championship, NBA championship stories, magazines, newspapers. And if I were to bring the merchandise out here, you might faint. I've got lots of it. I might be giving away some of that too. So that's why if you are a Knicks fan and a paid subscriber, it would be really behooving of you to join when I tell you that I'm giving away some hats, I'm giving away all kinds of things. Um, so, I mean, that's my way of saying thank you to you. And that's my way of saying keep supporting what I do. I don't paywall these chats. I may have guidelines. I have the right, like anyone who has a Substack Live, to set guidelines. And if people don't like those guidelines, they can obviously move on. But I don't paywall chats. I never do, never will. Some people do. They have a right to do that. They have a right to set their guidelines. But I don't believe in paywalling chats, but I do believe in setting a couple of guidelines and rules of the road to be respectful of people in the chat and to not sit here and joke about like everything is a picnic, because black people are catching hell out here. We've been catching hell. in case people didn't know. And I'm focusing on Black people. That's focus, not exclusion. I'm going to talk about my people. And, and I'm going to talk about them unapologetically. And I'm going to talk about the positive things we do. I'm going to talk about the ups and downs. I'm going to celebrate our people every day. And we need to protect our people. That's the way I stand. Yes, folks, it's important to support Omar Writes D, and folks like him have an important work and conversations. Thank you, D. And you too, support D as well. She's done a lot of very good things as well. Very important. Thank you, Omar. Appreciate the work you do, Writes D. Thank you. I appreciate your work. You have upheld standards, and I respect that, and I do the same in my conversations. D, I know you do. I know you do. Absolutely. Thank you, D. We need to start supporting each other on these Substacks, calling people out who do great work. We need to do that. D is one of them. And there are many others. Dr. Stacey Patton's another one. You uphold standards. Thank you, D. I'm now going to give away this for paid subscribers. So one paid subscriber is going to receive this. Now, not this exact one, but either the someone when the winner comes, I'm going to write to them and ask them to specify whether they want the DVD or the Blu-ray. Okay? Here we go. Celebrating James Baldwin's 102nd birthday and also the 61st year mark of his debate at Cambridge, given what we've been talking about today. The winner of this I Am Not Your Negro giveaway documentary on James Baldwin is Terry Ann Griffith. Terry Ann Griffith, and I think Terry Ann was here earlier. So I think this is the same Terry Ann Griffith. If it is you, Terry Ann Griffith, you are the winner of I Am Not Your Negro. Now, congratulations to you, Terry. You may be in the form, you may have left it. I think this might be you. Well done. I also am going to draw another name out of here just in case Terry Ann does not respond to my message within a week, because that's a rule I've put in now, because I've had people not respond. And, that's just the way that is. Victoria writes, I love that you keep it 100, Omar. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you for your continued support. It's great to have you here. So, Terry Ann, congratulations to you. But I'm going to draw out another name just in case Terry Ann does not respond in the next week, because the name I draw out of here will be the person who happens to get this prize if Terry Ann in the next week does not respond to the message that I sent. Terry Ann was I think it's the same Terry Ann that was in here earlier. So let's see. The runner-up and maybe the secondary winner, if Terry Ann does not respond in the next week, is Raquel Benada. Raquel Benada. My handwriting is not great there, but she will be the person who ends up with this prize if Terry Ann does not respond. And by the way, if Raquel does not respond, then I will just do another giveaway of the same thing in the future. That's how we resolve that. That's 3 hours in the books. Congratulations to the winners, writes D, and everyone else. Simone wishing Terry Ann congratulations. Melly writes, we must continue this conversation. Too many have died for the color of our skin. Melly, 110%. That is it for this edition of Saturdays with Omar, although it's really Sundays with Omar on a Saturday today, because tomorrow there will not be a Sunday with Omar, Sundays with Omar edition. So I just wanted to let you know that. That's the reason why I did this today. 3 hours in the books. Who knew that I could come in under 7 hours? Thank you, everyone, for your continued support. Remember, please send your love to the family of Dr. Jason Arday. We must keep his family in our prayers and our thoughts, and we must contribute. I will post this letter shortly. Thank you very much indeed. We must support our people and treasure them when they are here with us. Thank you, everybody. Have a very good day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care now. Thank you, Stacey. Thank you to everyone. Take care, JE. And again, Be well, be safe, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And may Dr. Jason Arday rest in power.